This is breaking news from CBS 13.
The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
That breaking news today, former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy just announcing that he is not going to try to get the gavel back after he was ousted from his leadership position. The historic moment marks the first time a House Speaker has been removed in a no-confidence vote. McCarthy is expected to speak on today's moment at any moment. We, of course, have been tracking this very closely for you here. Again, historic.
Yeah, and we're keeping an eye on a live picture right now. And this is here in Washington, D.C. He just approached the podium. Let's listen in.
President Abraham Lincoln once said, "I'm an optimist because I don't see any other way." If you ever come to my office, you'll see the portraits of Lincoln and Reagan. And I firmly believe if Reagan gave us advice, he would say, if you believe your principles bring people greater freedom, you should be happy about it. I've always been excited that I've been a happy conservative. But I've always believed that I've been so fortunate to be an American. My journey to this office was something people wouldn't understand. I grew up in a town of Bakersfield, California, the son of a firefighter, the grandson of immigrants. Parents worked hard, the youngest in my family. Didn't have great wealth. When I got out of high school, I didn't have great grades. Couldn't get a scholarship, went to community college. Flipped cars to try to pay my way through it. Went to visit some buddies away in college for a weekend, stopped at the grocery store to cash a check, and I won the lottery. One of the first in California. It was before Biden economics. It was only 5,000, but it went much further back then. Took my folks to dinner, put the majority of the rest of the money into the stock market and did pretty well. The next semester, I took a break from school. I went to buy a franchise, but no one said they would sell me one. I was only 20 years old. But I learned then never to give up. So I opened my own business, selling sandwiches. 3 things I learned. First to work, last to leave, last to be paid. I wanted to finish my college degree. At that time, no one in my family had finished a 4-year degree. I did pretty well. I now had enough money that I could pay my way through school as long as I went to Cal State. So I sold my business, going to school. I opened up the local paper and said, be a summer intern in Washington, D.C. with my local congressman. I did not know this man, but I thought he'd be lucky to have me, so I applied. And you know what he did? He turned me down. But you want to know the end of the story? I got elected to a seat I couldn't get an internship for. I ended up being the 55th Speaker of the House. One of the greatest honors. I loved every minute. And the one thing I will tell you is, doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it is necessary. I don't regret standing up for choosing governance over grievance. It is my responsibility. It is my job. I do not regret negotiating. Our government is designed to find compromise. I don't regret my efforts to build coalitions and find solutions. I was raised to solve problems, not create them. So I may have lost a vote today, but as I walk out of this chamber, I feel fortunate to have served the American people. I leave the speakership with a sense of pride, accomplishment, and yes, optimism. From the day I entered politics, my mission has always been to make tomorrow better than today. I fought for what I believe in, and I believe in this country of America. My goals have not changed. My ability to fight is just in a different form. You need 218. Unfortunately, 4% of our conference can join all the Democrats and dictate who can be the Republican Speaker in this House. I don't think that rule is good for the institution, but apparently I'm the only one. I believe I can continue to fight, maybe in a different manner. I will not run for Speaker again. I'll have the conference pick somebody else. I hope you realize that every day I did the job, regardless whether you underestimated me or not, I wanted to do it with a smile. I grew to enjoy you, even on your toughest days and your questions. I could always tell what day it was based upon your question. Monday, you would ask if I could pass the bill. Tuesday was whether the rule would pass. Wednesday was the greatest challenge ever to my speakership. And Thursday, when we passed the bill, you didn't think it was a very big deal. And it all started again on Friday. You know, I wouldn't change a thing. I do believe, I got a new portrait in there too of Teddy Roosevelt. You all know the man in the arena, one of my favorite parts of it, who errs, who comes up short again and again, but there is no effort without error and shortcoming. Who spends himself in a worthy cause, who knows the triumph of high achievement, and if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. I always like to take a risk. Saturday, I took a risk for the American public. Regardless what anybody says, no one knew whether that would pass. The Democrats didn't want that bill. Yes, they pull a fire alarm. Yes, they do their conga line. Yes, they wanted to delay. But it was all for the American people. I could not look the troops in the eye and say I would not pay them. For those who spoke on the floor, I thank them for their positive talks. I don't know what those who voted against and said there was some deal, they were never a part of any deal. For those who said about what we accomplished, I'm proud of what we accomplished. From the Parents' Bill of Rights to our energy bill. But if they want to hold me liable because the Senate didn't take it up or the President didn't take it up, that's politics, for what I know. But the one thing I do know, this country is too great for small visions of those 8. To any child that are listening and who are coming to visit the Capitol, this is a place I want you to visit. I liked opening the Capitol back up again. I liked taking away the metal detectors. I liked committees being able to work. I liked people being able to visit. I hope you liked being able to be back in. I think it was important that members actually show up to work as well. You know, to paraphrase Lou Gehrig, he said, I might have been given a bad break, but I truly still consider myself to be the luckiest man on the face of the earth. There's no other country that you could rise to be the 55th Speaker, not get an internship, and be able to fight for the American public. So it was my greatest honor to be able to do it. I love my conference well. I love to be able to I've been a part of the leadership team for quite some time. We won 2 majorities. As leader, I'm proud of the fact we only gained races, only gained seats. I'm proud of the fact as a Republican leader, we elected more women. We elected more minorities. We expanded the base. I'm proud of the fact that for the 5 years I was leader, 2 election cycles, we gained 5 more seats in California, 5 more in New York. We won in places no one thought we could win. The same thing, you would underestimate me. You always said we'd lose each time around. We kept gaining. I intend to make sure that we gain and keep the majority in the next cycle as well. With that, I look forward to your positive questions. Yes. Oh, I'll look at that.
You still obviously command a lot of loyalty within the conference. We've heard you say approximately 10,000 times that you never give up. So I'm wondering, why not? Why did you make the decision not to put your name forward again and try to grind it out like you did when you won the job in the first place?
You know, you need 218 for the rule, 218 to move forward. And I'll never give up on the American people. That doesn't mean I have to be Speaker to do what I have to do for the American people. There's a lot of things I could do for the American people. But you know what's interesting? Everybody's sitting there. In today's world, if you're sitting in Congress and you took a gamble to make sure government was still open, and 8 people can throw you out as Speaker, and the Democrats who said they wanted to keep government open, I think you've got a real divide. I think you've got a real institutional problem. Interesting, it was in this room after we had won the majority, I hadn't become Speaker last, and Nancy Pelosi came to me. She was Speaker at the time on the way out. And I told her I was having issues with getting enough votes. And she said, what's the problem? I said, they want this one one person can rule you out. She was the only speaker to have changed that rule. I had the power to call the vote on her, but I never would. I lost some votes because of it. And she said, just give it to him. I'll always back you up. I made the same offer to Boehner and same thing to Paul, because I believe in the institution. I think today was a political decision by the Democrats. And I think the things they have done in the past hurt the institution. When they just started removing people from committee. And they just started doing the other things. And my fear is the institution fell today.
All right, you are watching live pictures here from Washington, D.C. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy saying he is not rerunning for his speakership today. His own party, the Republican Party, turning on the Californian from Bakersfield, firing him essentially from heading the party in the House after he pushed to keep the government this weekend from shutting down. Hardline Republicans were upset he did not dig in to force spending cuts.
Now, McCarthy says he does not regret that decision. He admitted that he took a risk Saturday for the public. He said in the name of the public, saying he couldn't look our troops in the eye and not pay them. He has been expressing frustration, though, with Republicans who, as Curtis just said, turned on him, joining Democrats to vote him out.
And really the question now, who's going to replace him with the fighting among his party? We don't know. We may not know for a while, so stay tuned.
And Congressman Henry Cuellar